chapters 7 to 12, which are related with Bhakti Yoga. Now, the Gita is spoken at a particular time, and because it is spoken at a particular time, that is to Arjuna on a battlefield. So the Gita has a timely message and a timeless message, or we could say a contextual message and a universal message. So the contextual message ultimately boils down that Arjuna should fight, but the universal message is to harmonize with God's will, to do ultimately what God wants us to do. So there is this timely and timeless message to the Gita, and these dual currents run throughout the Gita. At this particular point, the way the Gita is flowing is that Arjuna has now been told about the glory of Bhakti in the 9th chapter. That Krishna is so merciful. He accepts our service even if we are unqualified or even if we lapse and fall. So now, a key element of bhakti is fixing the mind on the Lord, remembering the Lord. So earlier in 8.7, Krishna has said, Mam Anusmara. Do you know the next part? Yudhyacha. Remember me and fight also. Now, what does remembering Krishna mean? Does it mean that, say, if this is our consciousness, then a part of our consciousness is focused on remembering Krishna, a part of the consciousness is focused on fighting? Now, fighting requires us to be wholehearted. It's a matter of life or death. Suppose, say, we had a heart attack and we are taken to a hospital where the devotee doctor is operating. Now, would we want the doctor remember Krishna or doctor focus on operating properly? What do you think? Unless we are frustrated with life and we want to die, we think I'll go back to God, maybe we will or not. See, the world is a complicated place, and doing things right in the world requires serious attention to things. So, what does remembering Krishna and especially remembering Krishna constantly mean? Does it mean that a part of our brain has to be turned away from the world so that we can remember Krishna and then only give part of our attention to the world? But no, Arjuna, when he's fighting, there is no evidence that when Arjuna was shooting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Now, war is a serious business. Arjuna was fully focused on fighting. So, what does this remembrance mean? Arjuna specifically asked the question, Keshu Keshu Chabhaveshu Chintyosi Bhagavanmaya. He says, when I am functioning in the world, how do I remember you? How do I connect with you while I am engaged with the world? So that is the question that Krishna will be addressing through the concept of Vibhuti. So now normally when we use the word Krishna consciousness, there are two broad ways to be Krishna conscious. One is to bring Krishna into our consciousness. So that is what we, for example, when we chant the holy names, when we behold the deities. So at that time, we, from some external source, it could be the sound of the holy name, it could be the deities, we try to bring Krishna into our consciousness. It can also be through our internal recollection of what we have heard. We may memorize some verses which describe Krishna's beauty or Krishna's glory, and we try to remember it. So that is one way to be Krishna conscious. Now another way is what this chapter is going to talk about, is bring what is in our consciousness to Krishna. That means that there are things already in our consciousness which already have a place, and they need to have a place there. If we have to function in the world, we have to deal with the issues of the world, we have to have knowledge of the world. So then, how can we bring what is in our consciousness to Krishna? So that is what this chapter is about. So the specific term here is Vibhuti. Now, Bhoot. What does the word Bhoot mean?
Ghost.
Well, yeah, that is the common meaning of the word ghost. But Bhoot literally means? Okay, Bhoot also means past.
Entities. Shatta. Entities.
Sorry?
Entities.
Entities. Bhutanam. Jiva Bhoot. Entities. Anything else?
Body.
Body. Now, Bhoot means existence. Yet, so existence means that Jiva Bhutanam. So, the Jivas who are in existence. So the word Bhuti means what is in existence. And Vibhuti means special existence or special manifestation. V is Vishesh, special. So V is a prefix that modifies it. So Vibhuti means that which is special in this world. So earlier in this chapter, Krishna has said in 10.8, Aham Sarvasya Prabho. So everything comes from me. But now the verse we recited, 10.41, it is Krishna is saying the attractiveness of attractive things comes from me. So if everything comes from Krishna, and now he is saying the attractiveness of attractive things comes from Krishna. So in one sense, the second statement is included in the first, isn't it? If everything comes from Krishna, then even attractive things come from Krishna, and even their attractiveness comes from Krishna. So why state it specifically? The reason is that while everything comes from Krishna, it is not that everything attracts our attention. Say when you came to in this room, there are so many things in this room. Now, it's not that everything attracts our attention. So how many of us may noticed, okay, how many sky windows are there in this? Maybe if we wanted to have sky windows in our house and maybe wanted to see, okay, how do they look, how much air comes in, we might notice it. Okay, how many whiteboards are there made? So there are so many details over there. So generally, our attention goes broadly towards two things. That which is essential or that which is desirable. Say, for example, if you come to this room and you want to sit on a chair from where you can see everything clearly. Maybe you want to sit in the front chair. Then you can see which front chair is occupied, is empty. Or if you don't want to be too prominent, so you want to sit behind and be discreet. Maybe you want to go to sleep peacefully. So then you look which is a chair from which nobody can see me. So basically, our attention goes towards, first of all, things which are required for a functional need. If you are very hungry, if we come to the kitchen, we'll see, is there some food? Then after that, we'll say, okay, is there some delicious food? It's a desire. So our attention often goes towards that which is attractive. So attractive is because we need it, attractive is because it is something special. So Krishna is saying that while we are functioning in the world, naturally we will see attractive things. Now, the attractiveness can be the desirable, can be in terms of beauty, the six opulences of Krishna, that can be in terms of intelligence. If somebody is very smart, then we may notice that. It can be in terms of strength. If somebody has a very powerful physique, you might notice that. It can be in terms of wealth. Somebody is wearing very expensive clothes. Here now, somebody has come in a very expensive car, whatever. So, like that, there are different opulences of Krishna. And the point is not just to list the opulences. The point is to understand that these are pointers. These are indicators of how we are attracted to certain things. So when we are attracted to certain things, now one way is to see that, oh, this attraction is all Maya. And I don't want to get attracted to it. The attraction is distracting. And there is some validity to that, no doubt. However, where does the attractiveness of these attractive things come from? Say if somebody is a singer, Krishna, and now they may be singing mundane songs about romance or sensuality or whatever, but they are singing those songs, they have their singing ability. Where does the ability come from? It ultimately is a gift of God. So if somebody is very good at math, somebody is very good at architecture, somebody is just very good at speaking, so we are attracted to such things. Where do these things come from? They come ultimately from Krishna. So what is being suggested over here is that the attractive things of the world, we can have two opposite visions of this. One is we can see them as competitors to Krishna. Competitors to Krishna means that if I give my attention to these things, if I get attracted to these things, I'll go away from Krishna. That's one way of looking at it. But another is we can see them as pointers to Krishna. That if this thing is so attractive and this is just manifesting as a spark of Krishna's attractiveness. Krishna says, Mama Tejo Amsha Sambhava. Then how much more attractive will Krishna be? So we can see the things of this world in both of these ways. Now, somebody might be a very intelligent person in terms of their logic, their articulation, their communication, but that person might be an atheist. Now, can atheists be intelligent? Well, from a functional perspective, somebody can speak well, somebody can use language properly, somebody can present their arguments well, so they can have intelligence. Now, their intelligence may not be coming to a right conclusion, but they have intelligence. Now, at a functional level, they have their intelligence. We can get impressed by that intelligence and say, oh, this person is so intelligent, that means atheism must be right. Now, that would take us away from Krishna. But if you can think, if Krishna can give an atheist this much intelligence, and if I try to serve Krishna, if I try to share Krishna's message, surely Krishna can also give me intelligence. And that will enhance our remembrance of Krishna. So, Krishna, when we have to remember Krishna in this world, that doesn't mean we split our consciousness. It means that whatever is in our consciousness, we see its connection with Krishna. Let me explain another way, the metaphor. So if we consider this is an ocean. Now, from that ocean, some drops of water have come. Now, say if somebody is wandering away from the ocean, which is where there is, say, a desert. Like if you come to the Middle East, there is an ocean, and you go deeper and deeper inside, soon it's a sandy wilderness, which soon it becomes a desert. Sandy desert land. So, for example, there is an ocean. Now, if we consider this, all the drops have come from the ocean. All the drops have come from the ocean. But do all the drops point to the ocean? What do you think? Yes or no? And when I say point to the ocean means, if I... Okay, maybe my question is not clear. Because if you're not answering, I was not clear what is not clear.
Pointing.
So pointing. So for example, if I follow this drop, will I go towards the ocean?
No.
No. If I follow this drop,
Yes.
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 yes, isn't it? So all the drops are coming from the ocean, but some drops are closer to the ocean than we are. And if we follow those drops, we will go toward the ocean. Some drops are further from the ocean than we are. And if we follow those drops, then we will go away from the ocean. Isn't it?
Yes.
So similarly, everything attractive comes from Krishna. So if we consider that somebody, so even Prabhupada even says, for example, the taste of alcohol or taste of wine. Now, there is a British author who wrote, the taste of wine is the proof that God loves us. So his idea was that if God didn't exist, how could something as tasty as this exist? Now there can be so many things that are tasty in the world. Now, the point is that most people when they drink wine, they don't think about God. Isn't it? They get intoxicated and they forget about God. But Prabhupada says if somebody cannot stop drinking, say, they cannot stop drinking, then if somehow while drinking, at least they think, and the taste of this wine is actually coming from Krishna. Krishna says, I am the taste of water, I am the taste of all liquids. So then, by remembering that, gradually they will become purified. By remembering that, they are connecting what is in their consciousness with Krishna. And they will, it's not by drinking they will become purified, but by remembering that this taste which seems so irresistible, it is coming from Krishna, they will gradually become purified. So now, if you go back to the earlier point, this drop, if this catches a person's attention, this drop will be a competitor to the ocean. You follow this drop and you're going away from the ocean. But this drop, which is closer to the ocean, will be a pointer to the ocean. So the idea is, for each one of us, when we are functioning in the world, there are certain things which attract us. And rather than rejecting all the attractive things of this world as Maya, because we discussed earlier, the Bhakti philosophy is that this world is also real and the other world is also real. So if this world is real, then the attractive things in this world are also real. Now, one of the things that is attractive in this world that can very easily distract us from a spiritual path is a beauty. Somebody is very pretty, somebody is very handsome. Then that attractiveness can consume our consciousness and take us away from Krishna. So we may say that attractiveness is Maya. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. But Krishna also says, or the Bhagavatam also says, Janma Aishwarya Shuta Shribhir, that these are blessings of God. So if somebody is attractive, somebody is intelligent, that's a result of some past good karma. And it's a blessing of God that has come upon them. So, what is a blessing of God? Can it be called Maya? It can be, depending on how it is used. Somebody may have a very attractive singing voice, but if they use that singing voice to infuse people with all kinds of sensual desires, then that could increase people's illusion. But objectively speaking, they have that attractive voice. So, the attractive things of this world, if we can see their connection with Krishna, then we evaluate, okay, this attractive thing is something which can take me towards Krishna. So, for example, a devotee may have a beautiful singing voice, and a materialist may have a beautiful singing voice. If we hear the materialist's songs, maybe those songs will take us away from Krishna. But if we hear a devotee singing, hearing those songs can take us towards Krishna. So everything attractive comes from Krishna, but everything attractive doesn't necessarily take us to Krishna. So we need to select those attractive things which will take us toward Krishna. Everything attractive. We can see that it comes from Krishna. So in that sense, a devotee can appreciate art, a devotee can appreciate nature, a devotee can appreciate excellence in any field. Where there is excellence, there is majesty. We appreciate that. Everything attractive comes from Krishna. Now, this is true. Takes us toward Krishna. That depends. We have to evaluate what is the effect of this on me. Is it taking me toward Krishna? Is it taking me away from Krishna? And based on that, we understand that there are certain attractive things in this world which can actually point us toward Krishna. So, traditionally when the temples would be built, the temples would be masterpieces of architecture. While if the world is Maya, even the architecture of the temple is Maya. Well, not necessarily. The magnificence of the architecture attracts people. And when they come, it's a temple of the Lord, they'll come to the Lord. So, there is, in fact, traditionally, before we could say the scientific age or before modernity, almost all art and all entertainment had some sacred context to it. Painting was done to depict sacred themes. Dramas were written to retell the sacred tales from the past of the Lord's avatars and the Lord's devotees. So basically, the human capacity for ability, for talent, it was used to glorify the Lord. And in this way, the attractive things of this world can point us towards the Lord. So, bhakti is sensory spirituality. Sensory spirituality means that bhakti uses the senses to point us in a spiritual direction. So, with respect to senses, so sense of the senses. That means what is the sense, in which direction the senses are going. So one is we can just follow the senses, follow uncritically, follow blindly. That means whatever my eyes are attracted to, I just look at that. Whatever my tongue feels like eating, I eat that. Now, if we follow uncritically like this, we will be entangled. On the other hand, if we reject unrelentingly, without any exception, we reject everything. Now, whatever my tongue tastes as good, I will never eat it. Whatever music I like to hear, I will never hear it. Then, what will happen is, we will feel suffocated. We will feel, more precisely, we will feel deprived. Niraharasya dehina. We will feel starved. So this is basically the materialist approach. The approach of karma. Just follow the senses. This is the jnana approach. The impersonal spirituality approach. That everything related to senses is false. You just reject it all. So, in one sense, we could say the path of karma, it romanticizes the world. Romanticizes the world means, things are so wonderful, things are so beautiful. If only this would come in my life, if only I had a relationship with this person, if only I buy this, If only I could eat this, my life would be so happy. So the path of karma romanticizes the world. The path of jnana demonizes the world. Demonizes means everything attractive in this world is just maya. It's all a trap. It's all a trap. If you get attracted to anything, you will suffer. You get entangled and you will die. You will continue on the cycle of birth and death. On the other hand, the path of bhakti, it's like point the senses to Krishna. That means you want to look at beautiful things, then we dress the deities beautifully and we look at behold the deities. We want to hear nice melodious things. We devotees become trained to do wonderful kirtans, to sing nicely, to play instruments nicely, and we hear those kirtans. Even in the Western world now, if people who are not even interested in devotion or spirituality, bhajans and bhakti kirtans are becoming a genre of music. And people come and hear because it just feels so good. In fact, there are musical concerts centered on kirtans. People come, and here we do responsive kirtans. In the West, it's more like a performance. Just come and sit and hear the kirtans. And people pay money to just come and hear the kirtans. So, what is the idea? The senses, it's not that their attractiveness has to be, or their attraction to certain things has to be rejected. Rather, it's more a matter of selection. We see, my senses are attracted to certain things, but which of the things that I'm attracted to will take me toward Krishna? And then we follow those things. So the path of bhakti utilizes the world. It doesn't romanticize, it doesn't demonize, it utilizes. So the concept of Vibhuti is essentially about how from this world we can move toward Krishna. It is not that we have to turn away from this world to move toward Krishna. So when Arjuna sees Bhishma's impressive archery ability, when Arjuna even sees Duryodhana's mace-spicing ability, these are also coming from Krishna. Now, his own ability is coming from Krishna. Bhima's ability is coming from Krishna. Now, some people are using their ability to serve Krishna's mission. Some people are going against Krishna's mission. But whatever attracts our attention, that comes from Krishna. And in this way, say if we are working in our office and we see, say, a colleague who is brilliant, or maybe our boss, our teacher, or right, they're brilliant in their particular field. We can appreciate them. Even if they're not devotees, we can appreciate that they have some special gifts. And the gifts have come from God. And those gifts are, now they may not be using it in Krishna's service, but just by remembering that their gifts are coming from God, we have one level of Krishna consciousness. Now, should I focus on those gifts? Should I connect with those gifts? That depends on how I'm engaged, whether it's going to take me toward Krishna or going to take me away from Krishna. But in this way, we can be Krishna conscious even while we are observing the world, when we're beholding the world. So Vibhuti means that Krishna's attractiveness manifests in this world. So for example, among cricket players, say, Sachin Tendulkar may be the greatest batsman. So his batting ability comes from Krishna. So Michael Jordan among baseball, or whoever is among movie stars, some actors just have excellent acting ability. Some actors may have excellent dancing ability. Their particular abilities comes from God. So now, are they using it in the service of God? That we have to see in the context. But the key point is that we can see in this world attractive things, and we don't have to dismiss them as Maya. We can see they are also blessings given by God. Okay. You had a question? Okay. So now, this is chapter 10. This is an elaborate theme, and if you have any questions, we will discuss them later. And we will be doing some journaling also about this. When we do journaling, we'll be doing about something about this. But after this, in the 11th chapter, Arjun asks the question. He says, Krishna, you're saying that the verse after this is Krishna says that what is the relationship Krishna with the world? Krishna says that everything is in me and I am in everything. Sarvabhutasthamatmani sarvabhutani chatmani sarvabhutasthamatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani. So now God is in everything. I am in everything. That is, God is the Paramatma. Paramatma is the super soul. He is present in everything. He is in our hearts. He is in the heart of each one of us. Andantarastha paramanu chayantarastha. He is even within an atom. So Krishna is present in everything. But the other question comes up, how is everything in Krishna? So one way to understand that everything is in Krishna is in his Virat Rupa, is his universal form. So the whole of the universe is envisioned as the body of Krishna. And everything in that sense is present in Krishna. So in this chapter, also Krishna's teaching expertise comes up. So now when Arjuna says to Krishna that manyase tatshakyam maya drashtumiti prabho, Krishna, can you please show me your universal form? Now Krishna could have said, hey, do you think we are on a sightseeing exhibit expedition here? A war is about to happen. Oh, why are you wasting time? Why are you asking an irrelevant question? So when a question seems to, now irrelevant question, if is asked, there are two negative ways of dealing with it. Refuse to answer. Now sometimes that's a legitimate way of doing things because we don't have time, we refuse to answer. But quite often, the person who asked the question feels discouraged and they have some inquisitiveness. So we should answer. When I had gone to Australia for the first time, that was 2014, and I was speaking to an Australian audience. So the organizers told me, normally when I do classes in India, if somebody has a question in the middle of the class, we say that, we will have question answers at the end. So they told me that never say that. If anybody has a question, immediately address that question. I said, why is that? He said that Australians are very laid back people. He said, Australians, I grew up watching cricket, so Australians are the most aggressive, sledging kind of people, isn't it? So I said they are laid back in everything except cricket. But anyway, so they said they hardly ever ask any questions. And if one person asks a question, and if you don't address the question, then after that nobody will ever ask a question at all. So at least answer it briefly, and you can say at the end of the session you'll answer it fully. But don't discourage the questions. So one is that we just reject the question. Now this can be refuse to answer, that can be discouraging to the questioner. But the other is answer and go off on a tangent. Because the answer is not related to the topic. So you answer and then after the answer you ask, okay, what were we discussing? You have forgotten what you were discussing. The speaker has forgotten what you were discussing. The audience has also forgotten what you were discussing. So then what happens is, that is disorienting. But the expert teacher will actually they will answer and connect the answer with the topic. That is where the expertise is required. Okay, this question may not seem connected with the topic, but can it be connected? How can it be connected? That is the expertise of the teacher. So how is this expertise seen or shown by Krishna in addressing Arjuna's question? So Arjuna says, can you show me the universal form? Can you show me how you pervade all of existence? Krishna almost smiles enigmatically over here. He says, I will show you that and I will show you more. So I will show you what has never been shown before. Now this is where Krishna's expertise comes in. Then Krishna starts showing the universal form. And Arjuna beholds it, Arjuna starts trembling and folding his hands. Vashyami Vishveshwara Vishwarupa. So now, normally what happens is, it like say, Arjuna is here, Krishna is here. And then Krishna shows the universal form. Now when he's showing the universal form, at that time, Krishna is no longer seen. So it's only Arjuna who is seeing the universal form. So Arjuna sees that Nahantam na madhyam na punastavadim. He starts saying, I can't see any beginning, I can't see any end. I can't see aneka bahu daravaktra netram. I see many mouths, many eyes, many hands, many legs, many weapons. He says, this is majestic. And Arjuna is stunned, thrilled, delighted on seeing this universal form. But then, as he is observing it, suddenly, around the 25th verse, his emotion starts changing. And from thrill, some fear starts coming. Once I gave a class, after that one young boy, he came and he said, with a big smile on his face, Prabhu, your class was awful. I said, what? He said, your class was awful. And it's a big smile on his face. So, there, I was completely disoriented. Oh, why is the class awful and he's smiling? Is he walking? And then I said, okay, what did you find awful about the class? And then he spoke and he said, oh, this point was so nice and that point was so nice and that point was so nice. And then, after I figured out, it was just, many people who come to our classes, they are normally Hindi speaking, they learn to speak English. So he wanted to say awesome, but he said awful. So from aw, there are these two words, awesome and awful. So what happened is, from the verses 15 to 25, Arjuna found the universal form to be awesome. But from 26 to 32, it started becoming awful. He says, what is this? Oh, it's like all the warriors are coming into the mouth of the universal form and they're all being devoured and destroyed. It's like somebody goes to watch a movie and they're told this is a rom-com, it's like a laughter romp, it's a romantic comedy, and it turns out to be a horror movie. Hey, what is going on? I didn't expect this over here. So Arjuna is beholding this majestic universal form, and then suddenly it starts becoming unnervingly scary. Arjuna sees that there is this huge monster-like being who's devouring everything. And then, okay, you can see in some science fiction movies of monsters devouring something. And then suddenly you see that monster is actually devouring everything in your own neighborhood. And it seems as if the monster is devouring everything around your house. So it starts cutting too close to Arjuna. Arjuna says, hey, what is going on? He says, he just can't tolerate excited. And then, finally, he turns and he asks, Akya hi meko bhavanu grarupo. Please tell me, who are you? Now, there are three significant points about this question. When he's asking this question this is till 31. So in 11:31, he asks, who are you? So the first point here is, Akhyamite Bhavan Ugra Rupo. Bhavan is a respectful second person. Earlier, even when Krishna Arjuna said to Krishna, he says, Pruchhami Tvam. Even a little earlier, Keshu Keshu Chibhaveshu. You see, Tvam was using. Can you show me your universal form? So it's like you are relaxing on a weekend and phone comes and you pick up the phone, call it to, and then it turns out our boss, aapke liye kya kar sakta hu main? So the two becomes aap. The conversational first person, second person becomes a very respectful second person. So like that, the Arjuna sees the universal form, he says, who are you? Who are you? What is this? So, and then, now we may say, the form of address is significant over here. Then, the question itself is intriguing. Why? Because earlier Krishna has himself identified, this is the Vishwarupa. Pashyami Vishweshwara Vishwarupa. So when he already identified this is the Vishwarupa, then why is he asking, who are you? So the idea is, you remember I said that Krishna said, I will show you something more than what you asked for. So in literature, this is called as foreshadowing. Foreshadowing means that something that is going to happen in the future, there is some pointing toward that. Say if in a movie and a person enters into a room and they show there's a gun in the room. And then 2 people, 3 people start talking over there. If that gun is shown, then that gun has to be used sometime later. The gun has to be fired. The guns being there is significant. So like that, this is foreshadowing. So what is happening is, Arjuna has seen the universal form, or rather not seen, he has heard about the Virat Rupa. Normally speaking, the universal form has been shown by Krishna to Duryodhana earlier, he has shown it to Mother Yashoda, he has shown it to other people, and Arjuna has heard about the concept of the universal form. So, normally, if you consider the universe has 2 aspects to it, space and time. Space is that it pervades across. And most of the time, when Krishna shows the universal form, he shows his pervasion across space. But in this particular occasion, Krishna shows not just the pervasion across space, he also shows his pervasion across time. His power, his dominion, his action across time. What that means is, Krishna, he shows over here something more which he has not seen. Now I'll talk about the significance of that, but the question is, just to understand this, say we meet some friend of ours after 20 years, and then we are going out for a walk with them, and then suddenly some thugs attack us. And those thugs attack us, suddenly our friend exhibits some martial art moves and those 5 thugs are on the ground in 2 minutes. And then we look at our friend, who are you? Now, if that person says, I am your friend, that's not the question. Isn't it? So, when we see the unfamiliar in the familiar, then often the question comes up, who are you? So then the friend may say that actually I learned karate, now I have black belt. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. So when we see the unfamiliar in the familiar, and then we ask the question, who are you? Like sometimes A person who is very serious and sober, suddenly if they become very jovial and humorous, we may ask, who are you and what have you done to my serious friend? Isn't it? So that means we are seeing something unfamiliar in the familiar. So in the universal form, Arjuna sees this destructive form which is devouring everyone. So he's asking, who are you? And that's why when Krishna answers the question, Krishna doesn't say, I am your friend Krishna. Krishna doesn't say, I am God. Krishna doesn't say, I am the universal form. What does Krishna say? I am the Kala Rupa. Time I am the destroyer of the world. So, in general, the universal form shows pervasion across space. This is generally. Usually. But the specific universal form that Krishna shows Arjuna in the Gita, there is within this, there is a universal form, and within that there is the Kala Rupa. This Kala, Adrushta-purvam Rishtosmi. Adrushta-purvam, this has not been shown before. The Kala Rupa is shown, and that is what Arjuna is asking. Who are you? Who is this destructive form that is devouring all living beings? Now, time does many things. Broadly, time is associated with three functions. What are the three functions? Creation, maintenance, destruction. It is by time, with the passage of time, say the newborn baby comes out. It is with the passage of time that various change occurs, but something unchanging also remains. A small younger child becomes an adult. And by time, destruction also happens. But this particular form, which Krishna has shown on the battlefield, is focused on the destructive aspect of time. So that's why the battle is a place for destruction, and Krishna is emphasizing that. Now, why does Krishna do this? That's the third point which takes us back to the original point which we said we'll be discussing. You remember I said over here that when a question is asked, that if the question is irrelevant, either the expert teacher, what they do is, they take the question, answer it, but then link it back to the subject. So this is what Arjuna is doing, Krishna is doing over here. Arjuna's question, please show me the universal form. That's okay. But what Krishna does is, he adds the time dimension over there. And he shows to Arjuna that in the future, all these warriors are going to be killed. So you are thinking that, I don't want to kill Bhishma, Drona. But he says, that is not in your hands. They are killed by their own past actions. By their past actions, under my arrangement, they have to be punished for that. They have to die. So, Mayai Vaite, he says, Nihataha Purvameva. By my arrangement, they are killed. Rute Pitvam na bhavishyanti sarve. Now, the word Rite, Rutepi, it has two distinct meanings. That it can mean except for you. That means Arjuna, you and your brothers, Pandava, except for you, everybody will kill. The other is without you. Without you means even if you don't fight, still they will be killed. So, Krishna tells Arjuna, this is what is going to happen. Now, if you become an instrument for me, then you will get the glory. If you choose not to be an instrument for me, then you will just be left on the sidelines. You will miss the opportunity. The next verse is, Tasmat tamuttishta yasho labhasva jitva shatrun bhukshvarajyam samruddham. It says, arise Arjuna, attain victory. Ultimately it is nimitta matram, become an instrument in my hands. So this verse talks about a very important point in the overall philosophy of the Bhagavad-gita. Yesterday I said that our actions are determined by three factors. Anyone remember three factors? Yes, God's will, free will, and evil. So now, when we talk about these three factors, yesterday I was discussed about the tension between free will and evil, between what we want to do and what our conditionings prompt us to do. We discussed it today morning also. Now, let's try to look at God's will. So, how does God's will play a factor in our actions? So, now sometimes you have seen this Gita Sar, जो हुआ वो अच्छा हुआ, जो हो रहा है वो अच्छा हो रहा है, जो होने वाला है वो अच्छा ही होगा. Whatever happened was good, whatever is happening is good, whatever will happen will be good. Now, I have recited the Gita several hundred times. I read the Gita at least 40-50 times. I have never found any verse which comes anywhere close to this in the Gita. Because the Gita is not centered on what is happening. It is centered on what we are doing. Krishna doesn't focus on why the war is happening. He doesn't give any past life esoteric information to Krishna. Bhishma was this person and Drona was this person. That's why this war is happening. Krishna, okay, this is what is happening. How do you function right now in this world? So this idea that everything that happens is good. This is a very questionable teaching. This is, now imagine when Draupadi was being disrobed. Would anyone tell her everything that happens is good? No. And there are many times bad things happen in the world. And there are bad people who do bad things, there are some good people who do bad things. Bad things do happen in the world. And to say that everything that happens is good is a terrible misrepresentation of the very real lived experience of our lives. So the more precise way is for good. And even more precise is, it actually can be for good. It depends on how we respond. So basically, what does this mean? That God is the well-wisher of everyone. But everybody has free will. So, for example here, this is God's will. God wants things to happen in a particular way. Now, our human will, we can desire to do the same thing as God wants us to do. We can desire to do something different entirely. We can desire to do something opposite. All these possibilities are there. And we do have the free will to choose differently. Now, our free will, it works within God's will. The example the Gita gives in 9.6 is that God's will, it is like the sky. And our free will is like, say, the wind. Now, you can't really draw a wind, so whatever you have drawn, you accept that it is the wind. So now the wind, it can move left, it can move right, it can move up, it can move down, it can move in various lateral directions. So the wind is free to move in various directions. But the wind, if we consider the sky to be like an upside down bowl, the wind will move within the boundary of that bowl. The wind cannot move beyond that. So like that, all of us, we have free will. And within that free will, each one of us has the choice to do what we want to do within that boundary. Now, say for example, if some of us get angry, we might just yell at someone. If a local police person gets angry, They might take a lathi and beat someone. If a gangster gets angry, they might just take a gun and shoot people. If the president of America gets angry, or the president of Russia gets angry, they might nuke a country. Now, this, each one of us, so if we consider this, we all have, if you consider the world, everyone has a particular limit within which they are functioning. Some people's limits might be small, some people's limits might be big. These are called our kshetra. Kshetra is our broad sphere of influence. And within the kshetra, what we do is up to us. That is not determined by God. So, how far that kshetra will be, that is determined by God. How much that kshetra will be, that is determined by God. How long it will last, that is determined by God. But within that sphere of influence, we can do what we want. So, if we want to do bad things, we can do bad things. And now, of course, those bad things will have consequences. Every action will have a reaction. But when somebody does a bad thing, it is not that Krishna wants that bad thing to happen. It is certainly not Krishna doing that bad thing. It is not that when Draupadi was being disrobed, it was Krishna coming as Dushasana to disrobe Draupadi. That would be a monstrous idea. So everything that happens is not necessarily done by God. See, Krishna in the Brahma Samhita is said to be Sarva Karana Karana. He is the cause of all causes, not the cause of all effects. What is the difference? The cause of all causes versus the cause of all effects. Causes are those which produce effects. So the rains produce grains. But which grains are produced where? That is not determined by the rains. That is determined by the kind of seeds that are sown on the ground. Krishna is the cause of all causes, not the cause of all effects. The effects that come are produced by the causes depending on their free will. So when Hiranyakashipu terrorizes Prahlad, does Krishna want that to happen? Does Krishna want Hiranyakashipu to act in that way? Well, there is, in terms of Krishna's role, there is something that is his intention and there is something that is his permission. So nothing happens without his permission. Upadrashta Anumantaj. Now, at the level of the permission, basically you could say, all living beings, if you consider a funnel, everyone is at the level, nobody can do anything without Krishna's permission. But among these, a small number of people will do what is Krishna's intention. So, few, those who are devoted. So, Krishna is calling Arjuna, you become an instrument of my will. You do what is my intention. And in this way, you will get glory in this world. So, does God control everything? Well, ultimately, God controls everything. But God does not control our free will. Our free will, we have some scope to do certain things. And if we do certain things, that action cannot be blamed on God. Manyetum kalam ishanam bhutanam yanvithakali. Kunti Maharani is praying to the Lord that as Kal, as time, you are the supreme controller. But when conflicts happen among people, you are not causing those conflicts. They are because of their mutual animosities. So, why are we discussing all this over here in the 11th chapter? See, Krishna uses his revelation of the universal form to make an emphatic point. That is, Arjuna, it's up to you whether you want to be an instrument of my will. If you do that, so Krishna shows his greatness. Krishna shows that my will is going to happen. Now, if you want to be part of my will, that's great. If you don't, then that's your loss. And in this way, Krishna very expertly brings that question back to the topic of the discussion. How should Arjuna act? And then after that, of course, Krishna teases Arjuna a little bit. Krishna says, Arjuna is seeing this awesome form and he says, thank you very much, I don't want to see this anymore now. And Krishna says, actually this form is so rare, even the devatas have not seen it. No, that's enough, I don't want to see it anymore now. It is, please show me your Saumya Rupa. Please show me your gentle form. From the Ugra Rupa, from the Ghora Rupa, please show me your gentle form. And in Krishna, basically, it's like there's a cycle. There's a Krishna form, from there he shows the universal form. From there he shows the Vishnu form. The Vishnu form is four-handed. And then from there he comes back to the Krishna form. And then finally, Sudurdarsham idam rupam. This form is extremely rare. And then finally Krishna says that you fight as an instrument of my will. And say in 1133, Krishna has said that your enemies, Shatru, have been killed by my arrangement. But Krishna concludes that 1155 by saying, Nirvairaha, fight without any enmity towards anyone. So is Krishna contradicting himself? First he said, your enemies are killed by my arrangement. And now Krishna is saying, fight without any enmity towards anyone. The point is, if you are going to be an instrument of my will, then you are fighting for the sake of justice, not the sake of revenge. You are not fighting because those people hurt you and you want to get back at them. You are fighting because what they did was wrong and dharma has to be established in the world. So basically, when Nirvaira, Krishna says, take the personal emotion. Personal emotion is revenge, getting even, out of the equation. So if we have too strong personal emotions, then we can't be instruments of God's will. If I am too governed by my likes and dislikes, this person I like, this person I don't like, then if I have to do God's will, this person has this talent, this person should be empowered, this person doesn't have the talent, maybe this person cannot be given this service. So if we let our personal emotions come in, we can't be proper instruments of God's will. So Krishna says, Nirvairaha sarvabhuteshu. If you can take the personal out of the equation, you can act as an instrument. So then, yaha samamiti pandava. Then, O Arjuna, you will surely come to me. Now, at this point, the 11th chapter ends. I'll just talk about the 12th in about 5-10 minutes, and then we will take a break, and then we'll have a journaling session. So, see, basically, in one sense, the Gita's core conversation ends at 10.11, or we could say, 10.15, 10.14. Arjuna has said, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, accept who you are. Accept you are the supreme reality. So like in a class, sometimes in the middle of the class, based on what the speaker has spoken, sometimes some people may ask some questions. And then the speaker clarifies what they are asking. And after that, the class is over, and then the audience asks various questions. They are miscellaneous questions. Now they may or may not be related with the direct topic of the question session. They may not be related with specific points, but they are general questions related with the broader topic that is in discussion. So basically, from 10.15 onwards, all the questions come, they are like supplementary questions after the class. So if this is the class, and then these are subsequent or supplementary questions. Now we can try to see how these questions are connected with what Krishna has spoken, and that's fair enough. We can always do that. But if you just look at it from a textual perspective, the link is very difficult. Especially if you consider 13th chapter. Arjuna asks about peace and what is Kshetra and Kshetragya. Now Krishna has not even used those words in the whole Bhagavad-gita. So why is Arjuna asking about Kshetra and Kshetragya, a concept that Krishna has not spoken at all? So this is like an additional question that Arjuna is asking. Krishna, you have given me a worldview. Now I have heard these terms before. How do these terms make sense? So please explain that to me. So like that, now the 12th chapter question, Arjuna has suddenly been shown this majestic universal form, and suddenly Arjuna seems to be asking, which is better, personal or impersonal? So the question seems to be completely disconnected. But the connection is that there is Krishna's materially all-pervading manifestation, that is the universal form. And Krishna has said that his two-handed form is greater than the materially all-pervading form, manifestation, that is the universal form. Then this is chapter 11. So chapter 12, Arjuna asks, you have a spiritually all-pervading manifestation. Which is that? That is the Brahman, the Brahma Jyoti. So what is its relationship with your two-handed form? So worshipping which is better? And Krishna categorically answers that it is worshipping my two-handed form is better. So you showed me this all-pervading material form. Now what about that material all-pervading spiritual manifestation, not form, manifestation, the Brahma Jyoti? So should I worship that or should I worship this? Krishna categorically says, Mai eva manadansva, Mai buddhim niveshaya. Sorry. Mai aveshya mano yema nitya yukta upasate. Shraddhaya paryopetas te me yukta tamo mataha. So he says in 12 point, right from the beginning. And then after that, what Krishna does is, he talks about multiple levels at which bhakti can be practiced. And then he talks about the qualities that endear a devotee to him. And it's significant that when Krishna talks about the qualities that endear a devotee to him. Endear means that a devotee like this is dear to Krishna. Krishna does not mention any devotional quality directly. He's talking more of behavioral quality. That means Krishna doesn't mention that person wakes up at 4:30 and comes for Mangal Aarti. That person chants 16 rounds. That person fasts on Ekadashi. That person worships the deities every day. Krishna is focused. Now, those have already, not that this is not important. Krishna has mentioned this in 9, 13, 14. Krishna has mentioned this in various places. But here, Krishna is saying, what kind of devotees are dear to me? Those who are adveshta sarvabhutanam, those who are non-envious, those who are kind, those who are gentle in their speech, those who do not agitate others. So basically here, if we consider there is virtue means good qualities, and there is devotion. So Krishna is saying those devotees who fall in the category of being virtuous and devoted, they are dear to me. Towards the end, Krishna will say that if you are just practicing bhakti, you are dear to me. But if you can practice bhakti and manifest virtue, that makes you even more dear to me. So as devotees, our devotion should not become a license for saying, okay, because I'm a devotee, so I can lie, I can manipulate, because I'm doing it for Krishna. No, Krishna is saying that manifest virtuous qualities also. So this is a build-up on 11:35, 11:55. Nirvairaha sarvabhuteshu, adveshta sarvabhutanam. So that 11:55 is echoed in 12:13. So in this way, the 12th chapter ends. Well, Krishna talks about bhakti, but the bhakti that he is talking about is not a bhakti that neglects the world or rejects the world or trivializes the world. A devotee is responsible in functioning in the world. When Prabhupada was asked, how do we know your followers. Prabhupada didn't say they wake up in the morning, they do this. He said that at a different time in his classes. But when a journalist asked him, see, outside people don't care what all religious practices we do. One of the common sayings, I was in Texas, and Texas is a part of the Bible Belt. So I was going for a program, and on a car in front of me, there's a quote. It's, "Oh God, please save me from your preachers." So the idea is the preachers are holier than thou, judgmental, hell and brimstone shouring, they're condemning. Then people say, I don't want anything to do with such preachers. So the idea is that when we function in the world, Prabhupada said, my followers are perfect gentlemen and ladies. So one of the common sayings in today's world is, don't tell me what you believe. Because anybody can believe anything, anybody can claim to believe anything. Show me how you behave. Show me how you behave. So, if our behavior is generally sattvic, if we are cultured, if we are polite, if we are helpful, then people will observe that and people will be attracted. This is what Krishna is pointing to. A devotee with virtues. Is Krishna says, such a devotee is very dear to me. Show me how you behave. And Prabhupada himself, sometimes Prabhupada would use strong words in when he was confronting or condemning certain philosophical conceptions. But at a personal level, Prabhupada was very warm and friendly. When he would go on morning walks in America, he would greet people as good morning. He would say Hare Krishna, because people wouldn't recognize what Hare Krishna means, at least in the initial years. So, Prabhupada was at a personal level, he was courteous, he was warm. And that's what attracted people to him. Even when he would have a philosophical confrontation, a big argument with him, after the argument is over, Prabhupada invited them to take prasad, and he didn't want them to go away just like that. Why? Because, yes, as devotees, a devotee with virtue is what Krishna says is especially attractive to me. So I'll summarize what I discussed today. We discussed from chapters 10 to 12, and in chapter 10, the main point I discussed was the concept of Vibhuti. We discussed that Krishna consciousness can be done two ways. Bring Krishna into our consciousness, and what was the other one? Bring what is in our consciousness to Krishna. So when we are functioning in this world, there will be many things that will come in our consciousness because we just have to look at the world. So attractive things, they can be either competitors for our attention, they take us away from Krishna, or they can be pointers to Krishna. So it's like if there is an ocean and there are drops of water that have come from the ocean. Now some drops can take us toward the ocean, some drops can take us away from the ocean. All the drops have come from the ocean. So every attractive ability comes from Krishna. But we focus on those attractive abilities which will take us towards Krishna. So I talked about Bhakti being sensory spirituality. Sensory spirituality means that we don't act in such a way that we simply blindly follow our senses. We don't simply reject our senses. We talked about how karma, the path of karma, it romanticizes the world. Romanticizing means, oh, everything is so attractive for the senses. We just get desirable things, I'll be happy. The path of jnana demonizes the world. Oh, everything in this world is just a trap. Every attractive thing will cause us suffering. The path of bhakti utilizes the world. So, among our senses, we be attracted to music. We don't reject all music as false, as dreadful. We don't embrace all music as wonderful. We select that music which takes our consciousness toward Krishna, and then we relish and cherish that music. Then the second in chapter 11, we discussed about Virat Rupa, how Krishna shows Arjuna not just the space manifestation, space pervasion, but also the time pervasion. And in this way, when there is an irrelevant question, what Krishna does is that don't refuse to answer, don't get distracted by the question. Rather,
Correct.
Krishna expertly connects what is unconnected with the topic. So how does he connect? By showing the Kala Rupa, he shows that my will is going to happen. And you can become an instrument of my will. So the universal form has been shown before, but the Kala Rupa is shown for the first time. And by seeing this, here we discuss elaborately about how God's will is the supreme will, but that does not mean that God is the cause of all causes, not necessarily the effects. So if God's will is in one particular direction, people's will can be in similar direction or even opposite direction or completely different direction. So God's will is like the big umbrella or the upside down within which our free will can go in different directions. So the intelligence is to align our will with God's will. And then from chapter 12, we discussed about how, 2 points I discussed over here, how the link between chapter 11 and 12 is that it's more of from chapter 10 onwards, it's supplementary questions. So it's about the material all pervading has been discussed, and then the spiritually all pervading. That's what is discussed over there. And lastly, when we talk about the qualities, Krishna is talking about not just devotion, but also virtues. So he says those devotees who have virtues will be especially dear to me. They can become competent instruments for Krishna in this world. Those who don't have virtues, they will alienate people from Krishna. But those who have virtues will attract people toward Krishna. So attract others to Krishna. Those who have devotion, but they lack virtues, they will actually alienate people. Now Krishna still accept them, but they will not be his good representatives. So in fact, people have to come to Krishna in spite of such people. So this is where the Bhakti Yoga section ends, and we will continue with the last section in our sessions tomorrow in the morning. So are there any questions at this point? Maybe 1 or 2 questions we'll take, and then we'll take a break. Yes, please.
How to know Krishna's will is that is
Sorry, how do we know? Wait a minute, please.
How to know Krishna's will? You said we have to follow Krishna's will. So, like for example, I have 3-4 options in my life. So, how to choose correct. If I have option A in X company, then B company. So, which to choose? Any decision, and how to know whether that is God's will or not?
See, Krishna's will is not always like a narrow path. It can also be a broad direction. So it's like, see, Krishna has not given us free will so that he takes it away from us as a proof of our love for him. In the spiritual world, when the gopis cook for Krishna, it is not that every day Krishna sends some instruction menu list. This is what I want to be cooked, every day this is what to be cooked. Krishna surprised me. But the gopis broadly know what Krishna likes. And the gopis, based on their knowledge of what Krishna likes, based on what they feel inspired to cook, they cook for Krishna. So when we say God's will, it is not necessary that it's only one narrow way. It's like Krishna, it's almost like Krishna is saying that you have to follow my will. If you don't follow my will, you are doomed. And I will not reveal to you what my will is. I'll make it extremely difficult to reveal my will to you. Krishna won't do like that. So broadly, Krishna's will is that we do the things that raise our consciousness. We do things that are done in an attitude of service. So if you see, if Krishna's purpose had been simply that Arjuna do his will, then Krishna could have finished the whole Bhagavad-gita in 6 words. I am God, obey me, fight. Bhagavad-gita, Sampurna. Krishna did not do that. Krishna gave Arjuna an elaborate process of philosophical reasoning by which Arjuna could make a decision for himself. And that's what we see in the Bhagavatam when Ashwatthama is punished, to be punished. Krishna is with Arjuna, but Krishna does not give a decision to Arjuna. Arjuna uses the intelligence that Krishna has given to him based on the Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna makes a decision and Krishna is pleased by that. So, when we surrender, it doesn't mean that we reject our intelligence. Like we use our best intelligence in Krishna's service. So, when we are in a particular situation, it's not that a particular action alone is God's will for us, and another action is not God's will, and we are doomed. No, God's will is like a direction. And for that we have training. We practice bhakti, we try to purify intelligence, we consult devotees for major decisions, we can consult our spiritual master or spiritual guides. But the point is, all these are meant to help us develop our own broad understanding of what Krishna's will is. Krishna is not interested in micro-controlling us. Like many parents, when I travel across the world, if I stay at devotees' home, parents say that my child doesn't listen to me and that's a headache for me. Now I tell them, okay, if we could replace your child with a perfectly obedient robot, would you want that? Say, I may want a robot in addition to my child, but not in replacement of the child. Because there's no reciprocation of love. So even Krishna doesn't want us to become robots. Krishna wants us to use our individuality to serve. So basically, we try to purify ourselves and develop a broad understanding of acting with service attitude. And for that purpose, we take guidance from devotees. But Krishna's will is broadly whatever will help us raise our consciousness, whatever will help us come closer to Him. And it's not one narrow path, it's a broad direction. And different people can move in that direction in different ways.
A small question can I ask? Means Nirvisheshavad and Sakar Sagun. Means in Bhakti Yoga it is Sakar Sagun. We worship Sakar Sagun, and the Nirvisheshavad is worship Nirakar Nirgun. But they are mostly Jnanis, and we Sakar Sagun worshippers are Bhaktas. So what is the main, because you discussed about Bhakti Yoga. So I just wanted to know the difference between Jnani Yogis and Bhakti Yogis in this context.
Okay, Jnana Yogis are those who worship the Nirvikalpa realization. So Krishna acknowledges that as a valid path. But Krishna says that's very difficult. Klesho diktarastesham. So as far as the Bhagavad-gita's teaching is concerned, Krishna very categorically recommends worship of the personal form.
So then, just explain 1 second, that you were telling that everything that happens is for good. We can't say that everything will happen for good. So please explain that.
Okay, that's a good point. See, basically, that first of all, we can't say that everything that happens is good. Bad people sometimes do bad things. Even good people make mistakes. But now Krishna is expert enough that even through people's mistakes, he can bring about something good. When Duryodhana insulted Vidura viciously, that was Duryodhana's own arrogance and anger acting out. But within that, Vidura saw, hey, there's an opportunity. I can renounce the world and I won't have to fight on Duryodhana's side. I won't have to fight against Krishna. Now, was that Duryodhana's intention? No. So that was a bad thing what Duryodhana did, but Vidura was able to see a plan of Krishna in that also, an arrangement of Krishna. Now Vidura could have become sullen, Vidura could have become vengeful. Now, so God's plan for some good to come out of something, we also have to choose wisely. If we choose unwisely, then whatever happens, it can take us further down, it can degenerate. So a bad thing may happen to us, and at that time if we prayerfully connect with Krishna and we try to make the best of that situation with the service attitude, then that thing can turn out to be for good. Now that doesn't mean necessarily whatever happened is good. Most of you may notice that I need crutches for walking. So basically when I was one, my parents took me to a doctor for getting a polio vaccine. And it was a small town, and in that town the electricity was not very good. So apparently the fridge in which the doctor had kept the vaccine, the power had gone off in that. So basically what happened was the vaccine had an excessive dose of the polio germs, and the vaccine ended up giving me polio. So when that happened, at that time, so I was just walking normally one day, and after that I couldn't walk at all. So when this happened, I had a maternal uncle in America, and he immediately said, "You should sue the doctor." Now my father is a very stoic kind of person. His favorite verse in the Bhagavad-gita is Sthita Pragya. So he said, in India, you will die before your court case will even come. Case will come in the court. Now that has happened, what can you do about it? So of course, my parents tried to treat me and everything that happened. Now, one of my first memories of this is that, and I was probably 2.5, 3. I don't remember exactly, but some neighbors had come to our home, or some relatives had come, and they were consoling my mother that, "Oh, it's so sad that your son got polio." And my mother says, in very clear, confident voice, she says, "Whatever he lacks physically, God will provide him intellectually." Now, I don't know probably at that age, what signs of intellectual ability I had seen. And my mother passed away, so I couldn't ask her the question. But somehow because of that, I started identifying with my intellectual side much more than the physical side. And then, as I grew up, I was good at studies. I would like to not only study but help others in their studies. So that became my defining identity. So now, does that mean that whatever doctor's mistake was, that was a good thing? No, that was a bad thing. But probably Krishna spoke through my mother, and I remembered that, and somehow I subconsciously internalized that, and something good came out of it. It was my interest in studies, my interest in intellectual side. That's what eventually got interested in philosophy. That's how I came to Krishna. That's why I try to do some service now. So something good came out of it. But that doesn't mean what was originally done was good. So bad things can happen in this world, and it depends on how we respond for some good to come out of it. So everything can be for good. That's why I say it is, you can say ultimately Krishna's purpose, it is for good only. But whether that good will emerge or not, that depends on how we see it. When I travel across the world, sometimes I speak at places where there are people with special needs who assemble. And after that, when I talk to those audiences at an individual level, I find so many people are fighting battles that were lost years ago. Somebody lost an arm, somebody lost an eye. It's tragic, it's terrible, but it's already happened. And if somebody is just resenting that day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, then whatever good could have come out of that, that good will never come out. That's why everything can be for good, but it requires our cooperation also, our intelligent action also.
Thank you, friend. Yeah, you have understood what was inside my mind. I'm really moved. I was thinking.
Thank you.
For such a nice.
Thank you so much. So we can have questions later in tomorrow's session. Tomorrow evening we'll have a full session for question answers. So we'll take a break for about 15 minutes now. Then, okay. So then we will come back for doing some journaling exercises. We'll try to see basically how writing can be used as a tool for internalizing the Gita's message and making it like a guiding light for our life. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
5 minutes break.
Can come at around 5:45. We'll come back.